Snipers, you have to see what's happening in the cryptocurrency market today as the Bitcoin bears are putting downside pressure against Bitcoin right now, taking the price below the $35,000 support level. And I had to make this critical update because on the 4-hour chart, we are now seeing the first full 4-hour candle below the weekly open and at $35,000 level where there's confluence between those two areas. And notice here right now how we have this ascending support level. And as an umpire, this is going to be my last draw in order to assume whether or not we're going to see this door open that would take us towards this $24,000 level, which is an over 30% decline in Bitcoin's price. We have a lot to look at today as it is Saturday and it's an extended weekend. We see the most amount of manipulation in the cryptocurrency markets during the weekend due to CME futures being closed. But right now we don't have any buy volume. We have a lot of sell pressure. And as an umpire, when we look into this 4-hour chart, because everything starts on the smaller time frame and morphs into the larger time frames, this is my last draw for Bitcoin at this support level, sitting right around that $33,000 level. If we are not able to maintain this support level, if we do not see volume come in the smaller time frames at this $33,000 level, and we come up and we reject this weekly open at 35,000, there is a potential we could see 24,000 US dollars. However, if we maintain this $33,000 level and we see volume come in and Bitcoin gets back above this $35,000 level, this could be weekend manipulation. And I'll talk about exactly what we're expecting into the larger time frames for both sides of the scenario. And we'll also take a look at what's happening to Ethereum, because notice here how Ethereum is heading down towards this weekly open around that $2,000 big even. And the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart is now coming down to test 65,000 Satoshis, which is an extremely key level for this Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. If this breaks down, this could indicate weakness in Ethereum, and that could potentially translate into other altcoins. Because we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap chart, notice how we are below $1.6 trillion, where we have the 20-week moving average. We like to call this home base, and this candle closes in 24 hours with a very bearish wick right now, rejecting $1.75 trillion. This could be a confirmation of more downside in the total market if we're not able to see this weekly candle morph into a different candle in the next 24 hours, because this does close in one day. However, so far there's an extremely bearish wick, but I do have a little bit of good news amongst all of this bad news. If we look at the others dominance chart, we're still way and above home base here at this 20-week moving average. If we come down to test this and continue further up, we could be seeing a decoupling effect once again with altcoins against Bitcoin. We have a lot of things to cover today, and then we'll look at Bitcoin dominance, and of course we'll talk about traditional markets, but they are closed right now. It is an extended weekend, and so the focus is the cryptocurrency market. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. My name is Naeem Al-Abidi. Remember to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. We almost hit 400 likes yesterday. It was at 366 the last time I checked. Let's hit 400, guys. I know we can do it. And I first want to talk about what's happening to Bitcoin on the daily chart. Notice how right now we are coming down. We formed this initial low at 35,000 US dollars, breaking it, coming down, forming a candle low of 30,000, and this was the lowest low that we've seen so far. And then we came down to form a higher low, coming back up above 38,000 and even 40,000 to retest this 200 period moving average on the daily chart. At this point, as an umpire, I'm gonna give Bitcoin one last chance to maintain the support level. I do not want to see a lower low form at this point below this daily candle low, which was sitting right at 31,111. So 31,111 is this candle low. We don't want to see Bitcoin's price come below 31,111, because if it does, that assumes that this is not the consolidation period, that we're going to find a destination for Bitcoin, and that it could potentially continue in the same direction that it has continued as it started to consolidate and form this flag pattern. And so we want to monitor this support level right around that $33,000 level, and then that $31,111 level is this candle low that formed the higher low. We don't want to get there because that assumes this market structure is breaking down and showing weakness. So far, when we look at volume on the 6-hour, we know that there is a lot of volume in this pocket here at that $30,000 level. However, if we come down and we continue to see low volume, remember the path of least resistance is always going to be sideways to a little bit higher. don't be surprised if we continue to flirt inside of this range, but we don't come and break this $30,000 or $31,111 level, because if that's the case, then we could continue to stay above this candle low and still form another higher low. And then as we approach Monday and Tuesday, if we start to see price action come back above the weekly open at 35,000, that's our first confirmation. We need to get above 35,000 right now at some point or another. It is the weekly open, and this previous weekly open is not going to be as significant anymore as we head into next week, because that's going to change. And so right now, 35,000 is key. We get back above 35,000, and I believe there's still a rescue operation in place. But for now, this is my last straw as an umpire. We look at the 4-hour chart and we go into the Ichimoku cloud. Notice here, we're rejecting this Ichimoku cloud. We didn't get a chance to get above it, and now we do have this resistance, but we are starting to see this form into green. So is this still a bottoming out pattern? There's still potential. It is the weekend. We have to give these candles a little bit of time to mature, because I don't necessarily trust the weekend candles as much as I trust the weekday candles, due to CME futures being closed and institutions are not the participants as much as retail traders during the weekend for the most part. And so when we come in to the weekend, we have to take everything with a grain of salt. And so this is my last straw here at this $33,000 level. If that opens the door, the $24,000 level comes onto the table. We want to get above this weekly open as soon as possible, and then we can't even talk about a rescue operation until we're back above this 200-day moving average around that $40,000 level at this point. So very critical time for Bitcoin. I do want to cover what's happening to the Ethereum to US dollar price. We are below this channel where Ethereum in the past has been a good opportunity to long. However, because we're inside of this extremely large range here from 3,500 all the way down to 1,980, in my opinion, we want to wait until this weekly opener in that $2,100 level for potential upside scenario here for Ethereum. We don't want to see it get below 2,100 at this point. If so, that could assume further downside. A lot of this will have to do with what happens to Bitcoin. The real chart we want to monitor when we're seeing Bitcoin in a transitionary phase as it is right now is going to be this Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. We want to maintain 65,000 Satoshis to assume more strength for Ethereum. If we break 65,000 Satoshis, we could be seeing a change in the storyline when it comes to Q3 and Q4, and with altcoins doing better than Bitcoin, because that would be a huge puzzle piece for altcoins, being the fact that Ethereum is the largest altcoin. But the others dominance chart is still doing fine here. We're having a cup of coffee between the 50-day and 100-period moving average above the weekly open right now. As long as we're above this 20-week moving average, in my opinion, that's a very positive thing for others dominance. It's a very different picture than Bitcoin right now, way in below this 20-week moving average. But remember, this is a transitionary phase for Bitcoin. This is just the second weekly candle now below this 20-week moving average. A lot of times in the past, when Bitcoin has came above the 20-week moving average and then has come and broken down from the 20-week moving average, you can see here in September 2019, we came below this 20-week moving average. It was 4 weeks until we came back up to see a retest of the 20-week moving average, and then we saw continued downside. So I don't think that we're going to just see continued downside. If we come down, there's a possible area here where we could find support around that $29,000 level, but it's really going to matter about what happens on the 4-hour for now, because the smaller time frames translate into the larger time frames. So let's monitor 33,000, but this 20-week moving average at some point or another, it could take 3 to 4 weeks like it did in 2019. We may come back and retest it around that $48,000 to $50,000 level at some point or another in the next few weeks. So a lot of people are saying, should I sell my altcoin and Bitcoin positions? I don't think the time to sell is when we've seen an over 50% correction without any relief rally just yet. So give it some time. Be patient. Money loves to go from the impatient to the patient when it comes to any market. And so we want to monitor others' dominance and Bitcoin dominance right now. You can see we may potentially see a bottom here, because there was this bullish engulfing weekly candle on the daily chart. You can see that translate here with this previous weekly open at 40% dominance acting as a support here with this bullish engulfing. We've yet to break this low. Let's continue to monitor this weekly open at 46% dominance for the BTCD chart, and that could start to bring a reversal potential on the table. But so far, because we're so far and below this 20-week moving average, we cannot assume a reversal yet for Bitcoin dominance, in my opinion. And so the total cryptocurrency market cap chart, extremely critical close here in the next 24 hours with this weekly candle. Is it going to be bearish like this? If so, there might be a couple more weeks of lower price ranges for the crypto market before seeing a relief to the upside. But I do expect the relief in a few weeks at some point or another, I think that we will see some sort of a relief rally. And from there, we can determine the more macro trends, if we're going to continue further up or if it's going to continue to see lower or consolidated price action. So very critical week ahead of us. Very interesting chart patterns forming right now. And once again, as an umpire walking into the weekend, I just don't like the fact that we're below the 200 period moving average and the weekly open right now on a Saturday where the markets are the most manipulated. There's still very light volume. So remember, the path of least resistance when there's light volume is always sideways to a little bit higher. So I'm not going to be worried as long as we don't form another low for Bitcoin. And so that's my thesis for today. I hope you enjoyed this content. I couldn't do this without you. Remember to smash the like button to hit 400 likes. And I want to give away one of my favorite books on investing, Principles by Ray Dalio. If you want to win this book, share this video and comment below. You'll have a chance to win, and we'll wrap up this video. Let's see. Terry Wilson says, the analysis after the close was cool. Thanks. Send me a message on Instagram. You want a book. I love hearing your guys' thoughts and comments. So remember to smash the like button, comment below. It'll enter you into this giveaway. And I appreciate each and every one of you snipers. I couldn't do this without you. Until our next video, snipers